Hi guys, my name's Liam, I'm from Edgewatersports. If you're watching this, hopefully you've bought a paddleboard from us, and this video serves to help you get set up and get out there, okay? So I'm just going to go through what comes in the majority of our paddleboard packages, how to get it set up, and just a couple of little things to look out for by the way of looking after your board, how to use it and how to make it last a long time, okay? So here we got an example of one of the packages. This is the bag that it will come in. We've got a couple of compression straps on the side. We'll open those and get inside. So, in the bag, the main bits. The majority of our packages come with a 3-piece paddle setup, okay? That is so that they can be packed away into the bag. We'll come back to that a little bit more later, talk about some different paddle options, okay? So it will look something similar to that one. There will be a little repair kit. Often the manuals are inside here as well. Pump in there, that's your standard hand pump. All the packages come with a pump, even the board only setups come with your pump. And then in this one, here is our board, okay? We'll get that one unrolled and set up in a minute. Here is our leash. So this one will get attached to the board, and it's a little ankle leash, okay? Right, there's our carry bag. One of the first little top tips for you is that this is one of the slightly more mid-range premium setups, and the bag that comes with this is really nice. It's very durable, it's a good size, so it's actually easy to pack your stuff back away and get into here, and everything's pretty durable, including the clips and the compression things and everything. Be aware, the more entry-level packages, you need to take a little bit more care with the bag. With this one, I can quite happily clip these up, wrench on them pretty hard and get my thing packed down tight. With more entry ones, just be a little bit more delicate with the clips and the zips and things like that, okay? Onto the board. If we unroll the board now, this one has been out already, but it will look very similar to this when it comes out of the box from new. We can just unroll it. Okay. What we will do first of all, get our little leash on. The boards will have a little D-ring or some sort of attachment point at the back here. And there's two options. One is to simply undo this knot, tie it round and do it up. But what most people do, thread that through the D-ring, and then we put the whole of the leash assembly through that hole, tuck it through, and once it's all through, pull it tight, and that's not coming off. Okay, that's our leash attachment. Now we'll look at the fin. That's our fin here. This particular one is called a US box, okay? There's a couple of different fin types, how you mount them, and we'll show you both. We'll cut to another type in a second. This is one of the common ones. It's got a little pin at the back, and it's got this securing screw and this little nut here. First of all, take that one out. Actually, put this in position first. So I'll put the screw in. There's a little slot here on the board. Get my nut in and slide it close to the front, just like that. I'll now take the screw out of there. I'll grab my fin and I'll place the little pin at the back of the fin in the slot, slide it to the back, and then bring the front down like that. What I can now do is line up the little hole with the, just move that into position, line up the hole with the nut that we've placed inside already, and then place in our screw. Once you've got it to bite and not yet tightened it, you have the option to move it forward and backward if you'd like to. Now that I'll tighten it there, it can't move forward or back. Okay. This is one of the other fin types that's really common on the inflatable paddleboards. It's a slightly simpler system. This one, it's got a fairly flat plate on the bottom, and there's a gap associated on the bottom of the board there. You simply line up that little plate with the cutout in the board, push it back firmly until it gets right to the back box, and then it's got this little securing tab that goes through the hole there, and you can hear it click into place. So that securing tab now stops it from knocking out. So that's a nice, fast, simple system. With this style of fin, I recommend that you actually do this when the board is inflated, as opposed to trying to do it before you pump the board up. That's simply that when it's pumped up, it will help keep this back bit of the board nice and flat and straight, just as the bottom of the fin is. If you've just unrolled it, this surface might be slightly bent from being packed away, and it's a bit harder to push this fin in. To get this one out, on one side of that little securing tab, you just push down. So just here, push down and push it underneath, take it out all together, and then the fin will just slide out of the front like so. So some of the inflatable paddleboards, either in addition to a fin box like this or exclusively, have these fixed moulded fins. These are quite small on this particular model of board, but some of them are actually bigger. And you can see on this they're nice and straight. If you do have the board the correct way up and put some weight on it and these fins are to get bent, or if they do get bent when you store the board, roll it up really tight, you can actually straighten these, and it's simply a case of putting a bit of force on them. Sometimes you can actually do it just by pulling on the fin like that. Often if you just take a hairdryer or a heat gun and just apply a little bit of heat to the fin, it's super easy to straighten them up, and then as they cool down they'll hold in position. So if you do have these moulded style fins and they ever don't look perfectly straight like this, it's pretty easy to get those back into shape. Now that we've attached our fin and attached our leash, we can turn the board back over and we can pump it up. These are a generic inflatable paddleboard valve. They are all they work in exactly the same way, irrespective of what brand that you bought. They're all very similar to this. There is a little pin in the middle, and this pin controls whether the valve is closed or open. What I mean by a closed valve is that when there's pressure inside the board once you've pumped it up, if the valve is closed, when you take the pump out, the board is going to stay inflated. When it's in the open position, it allows the air out so that you can pack it down. The closed position, where we want it when we're pumping the board up, is with the pin in its highest position, when it's proud. These are nice and simple. You just push and turn on them, and you can see it's popped up a little bit more now. You've got to turn it approximately 90 degrees, but it doesn't matter, you can just keep turning it forever. So if I now do it again, you can see it's in the lower position, so now it's open and it would let the air out. So we want to pump it up, so I'll get it in the higher position like that, and now we're ready to pump the thing up. Put the hose onto the pump itself, and then here is our corresponding connector. There's two little cutouts there. They line up with the two little bars that are in the valve. We push it in and we turn it clockwise to tighten, okay? If you find this hose keeps popping out when you're trying to pump the board, pre-twist the hose in the opposite direction anti-clockwise, and then when you place it in, it will hold the hose in nicely for you like that, because there's a little bit of pre-twist in the hose. Now we can pump the board up. So we're nearly finished with our pumping. Most boards, we want them up to 15 psi. We're at about 9 now, and it's starting to get a little trickier to pump. We have an adjuster on the pump here. It's a two-way and a one-way mode. To get maximum volume in when it's easy to pump at the beginning, you have it on two-way. When you want to make the pumping easier, turn the little valve till it says 1. It will now only pump on the downstroke and make things a bit easier. The majority of the boards we're going to pump to 15 psi or 1 bar. Some of them go a little higher, 18 to 20. This tends to be the really high-end boards. So, having pumped the board up to the full pressure, this one's 15 psi or 1 bar, we can now take the hose out of the paddleboard, okay? So, it's the opposite of putting it in. if we've done the little valve inside correctly, we should be able to take this hose out and no air will escape. So counterclockwise, turn it, pull it out, and there we go, it's sealed nicely. We can pop the little protective cover over the top, and that just keeps water away from the valve. So, as you've seen, the hand pumping does take a little bit of time. If you're looking for an easy option, we've also got these electric pumps. These plug into the cigarette lighter of your car. These are nice and straightforward. You set the pressure on the pump that you want the board inflated to, so I'll select 15 psi, insert the valve exactly the same, turn the pump on, and then it will actually pump the board up to full pressure, and it will turn itself off automatically when it hits the selected pressure on here. So now that we've pumped the paddleboard up, just a couple of things to be aware of. Ideally, when we've got this in storage or on the beach or laying down or something, it's probably better to get the leash attached somewhere on the board so it's not flopping around. And then generally, I'll pop them upside down like that, just so that there's no load on that fin, with it being the other way up, okay? You'll also find in that little repair pack that we talked about earlier, in here we've got a couple of things. One of them is actually this tool, and this tool is for adjusting this valve back here. Now, ideally this should be perfect when it's new. These valves are actually replaceable. As I said, these are universal to all paddleboards. They are replaceable should they ever fail, which is great. And that's what this tool is actually for, is unscrewing and screwing that little valve in there. Also, instructions in this one, as well as instructions for a repair should you ever damage the board. They've got little color-coded PVC patches on here, and if you were to scrape the board on something sharp, something really sharp, there's patches in there so that you could fix any tiny little leaks that you might create. So now I'm just going to show you a few of the different paddle types that are the most common that are going to come either with packages or that you might purchase in addition to or upgrade to come with your paddleboard. This one here is a pretty classic 3-piece paddle, okay? It's 3 pieces. The top adjustable bit has a little clasp that we open. We can take the top out altogether. That's our top handle end. And then you can also break this lower piece into 2. And now we've got 3 pieces. The idea of those 3-piece paddles is that they're super easy to go into the backpack with the paddleboard. They're nice and portable, and that's what comes with most of our packages, okay? If we get a little close-up of the connector, most of them will have either a push pin, which is that bit here, that goes into the little hole, or it will have a lever locking system like that one, or in this case it's got both, okay, so it's nice and secure. So we'll get the push pin in, get the lever open, align it till the pin pops out again. That's if we want to put it together, and we would then lock the lever closed nice and tight. The reverse to take it apart. Push the pin all the way in and slide it open, okay? The other end only has that lever lock because the other end is designed to be the end that you adjust to make the paddle the correct height for yourself, okay? A couple of tips when you're adjusting your paddle height: always make sure that the handle is perpendicular in line with the blade that's at the bottom. And in terms of a correct paddle height, with it on the floor in front of you like so, you should be able to either rest your wrist on the top, or when you're holding the paddle, have a slight bend in the elbow. So for me, it's going to be around here. I can just get my wrist on the top. It's not absolutely critical. You can go a few centimeters either way, but that's a rough guide. The nice thing about having the adjustable paddles is that you can change it whilst you're out there and find out what is most comfortable for you. You'll find that when you're on land, having it the correct height might seem a little bit long at first, but remember that you're going to be on the board slightly above the water, and that whole blade should be in the water when you're actually paddling. So that's that type of paddle. That's a very similar 3-piece one, a junior style one. That one's only got the push pin, as I said. That's also quite common on some of the package paddles. I wanted to show you this one. These lever lock systems that we've got here, it's quite important that with some of the paddles that come with the packages, certainly the entry-level paddles, they're great paddles to use. The little bits that you have to watch out for is the durability of these little lever lock handles, okay? So when you are doing those up tight, do make sure that it's actually in line with the little gap that it goes into, and that it's not twisted at an angle when you're trying to do it up and putting extra stress on the lever. And try to spread the load over the handle as opposed to just pinging it from the end. We have seen these snap on occasion, okay? The other option is actually a 2-piece paddle that's like this one. The 2-piece paddle only has the adjustment at the top. It doesn't have a connection in the middle. The downside is it won't go in the bag, it's not quite as portable. The upside is that lack of connection in the middle actually makes the paddle a little bit stiffer, and so it'll be a bit more efficient on the water. You'll get a little bit more return for every single paddle stroke out of a 2-piece. So final couple of tips for you then. With the paddle itself, we often see a lot of people paddling with the paddle the wrong way around. You have got a bit of curvature in the blade here, and it does help to get maximum efficiency if you use it the right way. For me, if I was paddling to the nose of the board in that direction, the fin is always at the back, okay, so this is the nose, and if I was paddling that way, that is the way around that I would have my paddle. So when I'm paddling on the right, it would be that way around. When I'm on the left, it will be that way around. There should always be an angle slightly forwards. Another couple of things about the board. Some of the boards will have a D-ring like this on the nose of the board, either on the bottom side or the top side. This is actually a really useful feature, particularly if you're going out and considering towing children around on their own board. If they're at the age where they want to get playing on their own board, but you're not quite sure about going a bit of a distance without controlling where they go, you can actually use a leash and start towing one of the boards by these D-rings at the front. That's a really useful little feature. The boards will also have elastics on this side. This is more just for keeping cargo in place, so avoid using those for towing, okay? But you can put your bag under there, secure your bag or flip-flops or shoes in place using those. Final couple of tips from a durability perspective. In the same way that we don't want to put any weight on the back of the board here when the fin is in place, it's also a good idea to make sure that when you enter the water, you ensure that you've got adequate depth so that the fin's not dragging along on the ground. When it comes to packing the board away, it's fairly self-explanatory, but we'll go through it quickly. As I've said before, it's best to actually take your paddle apart into pieces, then you know it's not going to get stuck over time if it's got salt water on it or anything. Tie the leash up nice and tidy. Come to the valve at the back, take off that protective cover, and as we explained with this valve earlier, at the moment it's closed. To get it open and let the air out, I'm going to push down on it and turn it through about 90 degrees. There is quite a loud noise and the air comes out quite forcefully, so don't stick your eyeball right in front of there. Here we go. Allow the board to deflate for a little bit before we're going to roll it up. Depending on the type of fin that's in the board, if it's that slide-in style fin, you probably want to take it out before you deflate the board. If it's this US box fin that we showed you earlier, it doesn't really matter, and I can do it now. So I'm going to take the fin out next. Keep your little, if it is a US box fin, keep your screw attached to the fin so you don't lose it. and do something useful with this fin straight away. Put it somewhere that you know where it is, either straight back in the bag, or another good one is to just slot it in the handle in the middle there. We do get a lot of people losing fins, so put the fin somewhere that you know. Fold it up, squeeze the air out of the nose, and we're going to roll up towards the valve at the back there. It's more of a folding motion, is more effective than a rolling motion. So we can just get a bit of air out of the front, start a fold like so, and just work our way to the front by folding each side on the rail. It's good practice at the end. Close the valve, put the little cover in place. And there we go. Some of them go the regular size. When you've got a big bag, the boards will go into the bag nice and easily. Some of the compact specific boards, these are the ones that are designed to pack down really small. They actually have a deflate option on the pump that's provided. So an extra little step to get those packed down really small if you're traveling or you really want to get it down small is actually open the valve, let the air come out of the board, and then use your pump to actually suck the last bit of air out of the board. Suck the board so that it is completely flat, no more air in it, before you roll it away, and then you'll be able to roll it up nice and tight. Hope that video has been helpful, and enjoy your time on the water. Remember, we've got some other videos on YouTube with suggested paddles in the local area. So there's a guide to paddleboarding in Exmouth, there's a nice one on Topsham, and there'll be more coming soon.